what's up everybody? It's Lids, and we're back for some more Gwent, and today we're playing the new Battle Rush seasonal event, which is an alternate game mode in which players have just 8 seconds to take their turn and 15 seconds to choose their cards in between rounds. In case you didn't know, that is extremely fast, so that means you gotta have a deck that plays quickly. And for today's deck, we are going to use one of the most highly requested archetypes that we have yet to use, so let's go give it a look. So today we'll be using a Scoia'Tael Mahakam Forge Dwarves deck, which you guys have wanted me to do for a very long time, so here it is. And the thing in the Battle Rush event is because you have so little time to take your turn, you want cards that don't require much strategizing to use, and you want cards that don't take a lot of clicks to execute. That way you can consistently use your cards to their full effectiveness, because in this event, the winner is usually whoever makes the fewest mistakes, regardless of whose deck theoretically can score the most points in an ideal scenario, because there just isn't enough time for elaborate combos. So that's the great thing about dwarves, is there are a bunch of cards that either boost us automatically at the end of our turn or damage our opponents automatically at the end of our turn, and we don't need to do any clicks to make that happen. So that means when we're looking at cards, we're mostly just thinking about, is this a card we want to play early in a round or late in the round? And in some cases, there are cards that need to go in a specific row. So in the case of Munro, this is an early to mid-round play, assuming we have some Dwarf Berserkers already on the board. It is one of our more complicated plays because it does take a few clicks to make this happen, but that is one of the few exceptions. Then Gezras is one of our few non-dwarves, but he is the epitome of doing a bunch of boosting and a bunch of damage without us needing to do anything at all. So when you have Gezras, ideally you try to play as many of your units in the range row as possible, that way you maximize the boosting from Gezras. Then Brouver is passive boosting, try to play him as early as possible. Zoltan in the melee row is one of our best ways of spawning in those rowdy dwarves, so this is great when you have Munro as well, so try to have them in your hand at the same time. Zoltan Chivay is resilience, so save this one for relatively late in the round. Yarpen is one of our other, slightly more complicated cards, because if we have other ways to give him armor, then that is ideal, that way he can get boosted. One way to do that, of course, would be our leader ability, but we'll talk about other cards to combine with Yarpen later on, in which case, he could be a mid-round play. Gabor Zigrin is our other resilience card if he goes in the melee row. If you still have him in round 3, though, you can play him in the range row to get immunity. Figgis is our defender, which is not crucially important that we have him, but he can help protect Brouver, and he does give us a rowdy dwarf, so it's also another way to help set up Munro. Dennis is a late round play. That range row option has higher potential, but if you load up on all your dwarves in the melee row, then that's not a bad option either. Xavier is an early round play and does need to be in the melee row. Zoltan's Company is our other way of spawning in rowdy dwarves to help set up Munro. Barclay is a late round play. Armorer's Workshop is one of those ways to load back up on our armor and give ourselves a boost, because in some cases, with cards like Brouver, Yarpen, and Xavier, that armor can be the source of additional boosts. Mahakam Volunteers, a mid-round play for some thinning, and just flooding the board with more dwarves. Dwarf Berserker, another mid-round play for damage. Tempering, another way of giving more armor in case one of our key dwarves that needs armor runs out of it. Dwarven Mercenary, a late round play, but it doesn't matter too much because basically every card in our hand is going to be a dwarf. Mahakam Guard, late round play. Wagenburg is one of our other non-dwarves, and this is another way of giving a repeated source of armor, in particular for Yarpen. So there's a look at the deck, and like I said, it is very easy to play, and that is the key to success in this event. The big questions are just, do I want to play this card early or late in the round? And generally, we have a bunch of cards that benefit from the number of dwarves in a row, and so that means if you start playing dwarves in the melee row, you probably want to go all out in the melee row for that round. If you start playing them in the range row, you probably want to go all out in the range row for that round. Now let's go see it in action. Alright, so going up against Skellige here. And we'll go first. Okay, and we have some resilience. We have Yarpen plus Wagenburg, which is good. Brouver is a huge engine. We'd love to have Figgis to help defend him, because he is definitely something our opponent is going to want to try to get rid of. This probably does work, though. We can stick with this. And, I mean, if we want, I suppose we can start with Brouver. But they do have damage, so we'll see if they try to shut him down. He does get 8 armor because we have all those dwarves in our hand. Okay, that's just a point slam. Now we can go Mahakam Volunteers. That'll get out more dwarves quickly. Brouver to boost. A raiding fleet will give bleeding, but that's not terrible. That damage from the longship is not ideal, though. Let's go with a Dwarf Berserker, because it does have some armor, so it can tank that damage. And then they do have damage of their own. Absolutely. What I'm wondering here is maybe we even go Wagenburg. Not the way I was expecting to play it, but it will give us some more armor, which means Brouver will continue to boost those cards and means we can get continuous damage out of this Dwarf Berserker. Blood Eagle, trying to get rid of that armor on Wagenburg. Okay, fair enough. Alright, but we may just be looking to play one more card here, in which case we'll go Gabor. We'll go melee row, I think, for that resilience, and why don't we? Perhaps boost him up? So we do have some passive boosting and damage here. Even if we pass immediately, that will still happen. And a Demon-like Longship will give them some more damage, but I'm liking how this is looking if we pass now. Because again, still have some boost, still have some damage, and we have an 18-point lead. So will they try to keep pace here? No, they will give us round 1 on even cards, and we have resilience. Okay, so we still have a throwaway card here, and we have more resilience, so I think we're probably going to go with that. And then probably want to dump Tempering, and Zoltan, okay, does give us more Rowdy Dwarves, which could work well. But let's go Zoltan Chivay here. Give us a little bit of a boost on Gabor. Now, he's not going to have resilience for this round, but Zoltan does. So they'll go... and put the Rupture on Zoltan, but he has armor, so he's actually going to tank that hit. So let's pass now. He'll get damaged, yes, but damage does basically nothing. Okay, they're going to go with their Tutor. Champion's charge for 5 damage to remove our resilience. Okay, but they go a card down to do it, so we'll still get card advantage going into round 3. Alright, and Munro is big because we have lots of ways to get Rowdy Dwarves out here, and now we have a special thing to do with those Rowdy Dwarves, so that's awesome. I think we might still want to get rid of Tempering, though. Xavier is also big. Okay, this looks good. Okay, it's Croc. That's a little concerning, because that's going to give them some sustained damage. We'll start with Xavier. He will get boosted when he has armor, but the reason why that damage becomes problematic is because that can certainly give them ways to get rid of our armor. Combine that with the on-crate Longship. So now, let's go Zoltan melee row. And I might leave it at this at the moment. Okay, good. Yeah, Xavier will get boosted from that armor, and that means if they play more pirates or ships, then Rowdy Dwarves are going to be the things that end up dueling, not Xavier. So we'll use a leader ability charge to get rid of both of them, actually. So, do we have a defender? We don't, do we? Okay, so in that case, let's just get out one of our Berserkers for more damage. And once again, Xavier will get boosted up. We'd ideally probably would have used Tempering on him, because now if they play another card, it's either going to be Dwarf Berserker. That's probably fine if they duel with that, but Xavier Moran, we certainly like for him to survive. Ooh, Fukusia. For another source of Rupture. Again, we do have the armor to tank it, at least to a certain extent. Maybe we go Yarpen and try to damage Croc a bit. We do still have a way to get more Rowdy Dwarves out here, so yeah, we should go Zoltan's Company and then Munro next. Yeah, they're gonna try to take out Yarpen, it seems. Yeah, Zoltan's Company. That is definitely the play. Then on-crate Raiders. Pretty big, and they are going to get a lot of armor at this point. Munro to convert. And they're, yeah, just trying to reduce the total number of dwarves. To be honest, though, we were going to start to run low on board space, so it's not a terrible thing. And they don't want to be playing that from their hand, so that's fine. Let's go Dwarven Mercenary next, I think. Okay, King Bran, who fortunately has not gotten that much in the way of boosts. We are starting to run out of space here, as I was saying, though, so we can go Mahakam Guard. But, suppose, why not Mahakam Forge, just so we have time on our latter turns? Actually, Yarpen got randomly targeted, but he was probably the ideal target, because he can take advantage of that additional armor. Terror of the Seas, they'll get rid of that 10 armor for some damage. But it does give us some space, which is actually kind of nice. So we're tied right now, but not after that. And of course, we can go Dennis here. Sure, we'll do it for good measure, but we have confirmed the win. So there you go. We proved victorious. Alright, so going up against monsters here. And we'll go first. Okay, and our big card here would be Brouver. And we want to have as many dwarves as possible to go along with him. We don't have much of a need for Wagenburg outside of Xavier. Might actually go for him in round 1 instead. So, okay. In that case, I guess we'll get rid of you. Let's go Xavier first, because he is definitely a card you want to play as early as possible. And we want to put him in the melee row. He is row locked. Okay, Nero. Honestly, is always a risk. Cave Troll makes me a little suspicious of what they're trying to do here. I feel like there's a non-zero chance it's Keltullis. Let's go with Gabor Zigrin for some early resilience here. Normally, I'd like to wait a little bit before doing that, but I'm suspicious of what they're trying to do. It's Quacks. I think it's going to be Keltullis. No, it's Siri. Okay. Now we do want to get some dwarves out here, because we can convert them for some damage. I mean, if they happen to have Keltullis after all, then this would actually be a really good time to do that, because we do have a ton of units out now. Darn. We did have a defender. We could have played him on our next turn, but no, they were too quick. So in that case, why don't we just keep it simple here? Let's go with you, and then a little bit of a boost with our stratagem, because we do have a pretty sizable lead here, of course. They are close to getting some card draw with Siri, but that's an earlier Siri than you would usually like to play. Beast, yes, will get boosted a fair bit. And then if we wanted to, we could go Mahakam Guard. I'm thinking maybe Dwarf Berserker first. That might be the last card we want to play here. And we almost had enough damage to take out Siri, even though it is randomly triggering. So yes, they will pass. They'll get that card draw, which means, yes, you have 2-card advantage, but it doesn't really matter because we can dry pass in round 2. Okay, so we're looking to set up a range row with a bunch of dwarves and boost those all with Brouver and Gezras as he's flying from one row to the other. So this looks fine. Theoretically, we do have a throwaway card here, and I do like our cards, though. So we might just stick with this and not use any of those throwaways. Okay, they'll go Wild Hunt Hounds. Of course, anything will do. They'll win round 2. Okay, and we get Yarpen. That's a little bit tricky because we don't have many ways to give him a continuous source of armor. He is still decent, though, so maybe we'll stick with him here. I suppose this will suffice, then. Okay, they'll go Neomancy into Xavier. Shouldn't really matter. That also takes so long to use if you're going to use his order ability every turn. Let's start with Figgis, because I want to get our defender down before we use Brouver, just in case. Okay, well, that's why we put him there, so that he gets banished rather than Brouver. So now let's try Brouver. Okay, Witch's Sabbath will bring back some cards for both of us. We actually do have a Rowdy Dwarf, so that is kind of convenient. So let's go convert you. Let's put you down, and then I would like to get Tempering on Xavier. Well, actually, Xavier will get armor anytime we play Dwarf, so yes, he will get boosted now. So that benefited us a fair bit, fortunately. I mean, control also takes a ton of time. So now let's go with Yarpen, and with him, we'll damage. I suppose it has to be the Cave Troll, so it's not going to help us that much. But we do have the random damage coming from our Dwarf Berserkers, which will start to hurt them a bit. But we want to load up on dwarves in this range row as much as possible. This does still look a bit like a Kelly deck. I'm surprised they haven't played her yet. I mean, we obviously have way more units than them right now. Let's go, Mahakam Volunteers. Speaking of, lots of units. There's more of them. Okay, Witch Apprentice, I do also love that they are loading up on the melee row, where our eventual Gezras will deal a lot of damage. Let's go Mahakam Guards now. Unfortunately, we have lost some armor on some of our dwarves, and that is significant, because Brouver specifically boosts dwarves that have armor. So yeah, that might be what they're trying to do with Nithrall, but okay, there is Kelly, as expected. That means we're going to lose you. Oh, okay, one of you. We were going to run a little bit short on space, technically that should have been. Gezras' Adrenaline is active, so yeah, definitely want to play him as soon as possible. So he's next. So we go Gezras first, and then technically we might even want to use this on Gezras because he was going to be our smallest unit. And we obviously don't want him to get destroyed by Kelly. So as much as I did want to give one of our other dwarves more armor to help power up Brouver, I think it was perhaps more important that we give that to Gezras. Now we can give armor. And we could do it to Yarpen and give him a boost. I mean, I suppose. He is going to lose that armor at the end of this turn, so that's potentially reason not to do it. A Hideous Feast doesn't look like it's going to be enough for them. Oh, but it does knock Gezras down. So yeah, he is the card that gets destroyed. So just in case, we'll go here and give ourselves a big boost. But there you have it. We emerge victorious. Alright, so going up against Scoia'Tael here. And we'll go first. Okay, so we have Gezras. That works great. For late on in the round means we're going to want to put cards in the range row for that. But I think we start with Xavier. And armor is going to be important for Yarpen. We have a few ways to boost that. So, you know, this looks fine. Let's start with Xavier. Now, they are guerrilla tactics, so they can move him to the range row. And he is row locked to the melee row, so that wouldn't be a terrible idea. That is what they go for. So in that case, that is an offensive Dobleton Sentry. Let's go with Dwarf Berserker here. See if we can get rid of that Dobleton Sentry, but I don't know how much they're going to be moving our cards here. Are they going? Surely not Milva, right? You're not going to have enough time to do that, so we'll see. That is unfortunate that they get rid of all the armor on the Dwarf Berserker, but I mean, we can try playing another one here. Triad Matron, so that would be boosting with their own movement, which means that would have been ideally in the range row in that case. Let's go Yarpen. That will give us more damage, and if this random damage from the Dwarf Berserker hits this Dobleton Sentry, we could get rid of it. I mean, at this point, this Triad Matron might actually be more of a long-term threat. Let's put more armor on all these guys, because they all benefit from armor, and then let's use Crystal Skull here. I guess try not to put all the boosts on Yarpen, but that might even be the last card that we play in this round, because we have a pretty sizable lead here. Malena, yes, does give them movement, but they're going to focus on moving themselves so that they can boost rather than damage us. But we do have some additional damage coming from these Dwarf Berserkers, even if we pass here. So for that reason, I'm thinking we pass now. That means they have an 18-point deficit. Can they make that up? If they Heat Wave, they can get close, but not enough. And that's why I was saying we don't want to load up on all the boosts on just Yarpen. Rayhin. Getting rid of all their removal here. So they will take the round 1 win, but they go 2 cards down to do it. Okay, so they played 2 more cards than us in round 1. We have 1 card to burn here. That means this could be a perfect situation for Zoltan and Resilience. So I love that. We are going to want some Rowdy Dwarves for Munro, but we have Zoltan to do that, so that's ideal. I think this looks good. Okay, they do. They do, in fact, bypass here, which sets up a nice and easy Resilience play there with Zoltan. So that means we'll win round 2 and get some carryover as well. Okay, and now what we want to do is load up on units, ideally in the range row, to set up Gezras. In fact, if we put Zoltan in the range row, that would have been ideal. Let's get rid of temperings, and that's perfect. Okay, we might have, in fact, more room than we know what to do with here after all that, so in that case, why don't we maybe begin with Figgis? We are going to want to get Zoltan, I suppose, in the melee row for the Rowdy Dwarves. Ooh, early sim loss. Oh, okay. To get multiple bountiful harvest, that does take a whole lot of time to choose what you want there, so this is going to be almost entirely random choices. We'll see if it makes sense. Hitting our defender, fortunately. Not hitting our defender that time, but so be it. Right, so yes, as I was saying, I think we do still need to go with Zoltan in the melee row to get these Rowdy Dwarves. We did have one from Figgis, but we're going to need to have two. Is that a Munro? They have a Mahakam defender. Okay, and they're going to move it with their last leader ability charge. So now let's go with Munro. And let's convert you, and then just convert one of these guys, I suppose. That Witcher will give them some damage, but we do have a lot of armor. So now let's go with Mahakam Volunteers to load up on as many dwarves in this row as possible, as quickly as possible. Okay, Megascope. And I'm not entirely sure which one they were using that on, but let's go Dwarven Mercenary here. It will technically take 1 damage from Gezras, but since it has the 1 starting armor, it's fine. Okay, it's Fauve, and it's going to take them some time to pick a card from their deck. It's Isengrim's Council. They got to pick a card for that as well. So it turns into a Double-Thon Sentry. That may or may not have been what they wanted, and they almost certainly did not get to pick where it went, and that probably was not what they would have preferred. So now, let's go Tempering here. Technically, that should have gone on a Dwarf Berserker to give them the armor for the additional damage. We do have Mahakam Forge, our leader ability. We can do that there. But now we can go with Gezras. Want to get him down, well, as soon as possible. So do they. They have a little more synergies going, well, would have more synergies with him if that Double-Thon Sentry was in the range row, but it is not. We'll use our Gezras. We'll go Mahakam Forge is going to be fast enough to choose our target, just barely. Okay, it's Gaetan. That will be a lot of damage, depending on where they choose to do it. Okay. They went melee row. That does mean they move. Ooh. They moved their Double-Thon to Sentry. Let's go. Yes, Mahakam Guard. Gezras should be safe for the moment, hiding in our range row, but we may want to boost him with Barclay next. Okay, so let's do this. Boost ya, just to get you a little bit safer. They no longer have many units in their melee row, so that means Gezras' damage is not that good. But his boost will be. Oh, Igni. That's a good finisher. It's going to get rid of Dwarven Mercenary, presumably. I'm surprised that's our biggest unit. We must have used a leader ability charge on that, didn't we? Okay, but it does mean we have room for Dennis, which is nice. So he'll boost everybody, and then Gezras as well means we will take the win. Alright, so going up against Skellige here, and they'll go first. Okay, we have Gezras. We have several ways to spawn in Rowdy Dwarves, but do we have a way to capitalize on those? Not so much. I'm thinking we get rid of some of our armor generation here. Not loving this hand at the moment. Okay, now Munro fundamentally changes that though, so yes, now we can make better use of those dwarves. So in that case, let's go Zoltan's company first. Okay, they'll go Little Halfru. They very well may start using some rain here. But let's go Munro. And start converting. Now that these guys are Dwarf Berserkers, they'll deal some damage. Throw Messenger. We'll get the other one out from their deck. And speaking of getting cards out from their deck, we can do that too. Okay, Alzur's Double Cross. Another one of those bears. Wow. Okay, that's apparently their biggest card. Then let's go for one more Dwarf Berserker. And I think after that, we may go for a Dwarf Mercenary, or probably Mahakam Guard be even better. And that could be the last card we play. We'll have to see. They do use their stratagem. And Megascope is slow, but it's probably for either Crow. I mean, it could be a Raging Bear, I suppose. So, depends. How much longer do we think this round's going to go? Alright, we'll go Dwarf Mercenary first, which means we are still going to want to play one more card here, the Mahakam Guard. Then again, we have a lead, so we'll see what they do. Arnvald will convert one of those crows into Bear Abomination. You don't see that too often, but you know, to your credit, it did work. So there is the Mahakam Guard. It does get that boost from all the other dwarves in that row. So we'd kinda like for this round to end now. Oh, that is well done. I'll give you that. I did not see that one coming, and we just don't really have any great options here at the moment. So I think we will need to pass. So that means they'll take round one, and with resilience as well. Speaking of resilience, we get some of our own here with Gabor. And this is a decent hand, it's just that we played our cards in positions and orders that didn't really work with our finishers last time. And they are still playing. In which case, I suppose, let's go first with Yarpen and damage you. But we may need to be playing cards in our range row in case they are pushing all the way. It seems like they might be. We want to set up Gezras. Although, Zoltan Warrior definitely is preferable in the melee row, so you know what, Gezras? We might be looking to just avoid playing you in this round, but we may not have that luxury because they're pushing hard here. They didn't get Knickers out in round one. Wow. Okay, let's go with Dennis and boost these guys. Try to keep them alive. They'll pass now. Okay, so this is a problem because they still have a fair bit of points. We can go with Gezras here. As I was saying, ideally we would have all these guys in the range row, whereas we don't right now. And we can try going with Gabor. We love the resilience. And if we pass here, we will take the round 2 win, but we are a card down. Will that resilience make up for it? We'll have to see. Okay, Xavier is a good engine. Wagenburg just doesn't really make a lot of sense here right now. Figgis, sure, I suppose. Other than that, we don't have a ton of dwarves, but I guess we can stick with the Mahakam Guard. Let's go Xavier first. If we are trying to maximize our point total. He is an engine, and therefore might get targeted, so not the worst idea to go with Figgis soon. Fortunately, that did not hit Xavier, because he does need armor. So now let's go with Figgis. Okay, now it's Messenger of the Sea, and they're probably looking to set up more rain. They'll do that with their leader ability. Now let's go Zoltan. Try to keep our dwarves alive. Okay, Megascope. Looks like it's going to be on that Messenger of the Sea. Now let's go Barclay. And let's use our leader ability as well. And it doesn't matter too much who it's on. In some ways, Xavier is ideal, though, just to make sure he definitely has armor. Tears of Siren will give them some more rain. But unless they convert that rain, I'm not sure it's going to be enough. Mahakam Guard does need to go down here as well. Okay, so we have a sizable lead here. They have 2 cards remaining. Will it be enough for them to catch up? Morkvarg is not a card you want to be playing from your hand. They have some damage. They have the Messengers of the Sea getting boosted from the rain, but that will not be enough. We will still take the win, even a card down. So there's a look at a Scoia'Tael Dwarves deck for the new Battle Rush seasonal event. If you liked the video, then make sure to hit the like and subscribe button and leave a comment down below to let me know which other cards, archetypes, and factions you'd like us to experiment with next. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you next time.